Welcome to The Alignment Show, featuring conversations with folks who have taken steps to identify their highest values and align their lives around them. Time on this earth is not unlimited, and you may be seeking to make sure you spend your time on things that matter to you. These conversations will encourage you and support you in doing so. Now, let's meet this week's guest on The Alignment Show. And good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time it might be in your part of the world. Once again, you are here with us on The Alignment Show. My name is Don King, and I will be your host as usual. Glad to have you with us again this week. We have a guest that I enjoyed getting to know a bit. She's in an area that the way my mind works, it's almost diametrically opposed. Not that there's anything wrong there, but she just has that ability to deal with numbers and the financial reports and all of that sort of thing. I'll tell you about Ahuva Gruen coming up here in just a moment. But first, let's remember our sponsors. As usual, we have SalesWise Live, and I'm going to put the crawl up here. Let's see, where did it go? Oh, I'm having trouble finding it. There we are. Okay, yeah, like running a starship, as David Newman says. You can get to SalesWise Live to find out about it by going to donking.com. That's DONNKING.com/SalesWise. And you may be saying, well, why would I want to know about SalesWise? I'm not in commission sales. You may be, and if you are, this is going to make life certainly much easier for you. It's going to make things better for your clients. But whether you're in commission sales or not, really, SalesWise is about doing well by doing good, by building genuine relationships. There's no manipulation involved in this kind of selling. If you are in a nonprofit, if you are a pastor with a church, I mean, it just simply helps with all of these things, increasing your influence by being genuine. And to me, one of the great things about that is it takes pressure off of you. Yes, you have to put food on the table, but this is the best way to do it. Low pressure for you, low pressure for the clients. No pressure, really. It's about finding the people who need what you have and helping them to get it, and building that whole thing that we've all heard about to know, like, and trust. It's a very pragmatic application of that. So be sure to check out donking.com/SalesWise to learn from the best in the business. Also, in our sponsorship, we've got my books, donking.com, DONNKING.com/books. Got a couple of them out there now that are part of the Sparklight Chronicles. There is The Way of the 3-Year-Old Why that started it all, and its follow-up, Medium Well, The Journey from Believing to Believing In. There are actually 2 more books that are being developed in that series, but they're taking a back seat for the moment. In about 6 weeks or so, my next book should be coming out, a straight nonfiction book. It's a fairly narrowly focused book, but I'll bet you know somebody who's in this position. Did you know there are 53 million unpaid caregivers in the United States alone? I don't have the figures for worldwide, but bound to be a lot of them. And a lot of those folks had a creative career, continue to have one, we hope. But, you know, creatives will get advice like block out 2 hours of time to focus, tell your family not to bother you, that kind of thing. Doesn't work when you are a caregiver. And so the book is called Creating While Caring. And it will be aimed at helping people to manage to continue their creative careers as writers, sculptors, photographers, musicians, whatever it might be, while caring for a loved one. And that will be on this same site. All the books that I publish will wind up at donking.com/books. So be sure and keep an eye out for that. In any case, we have somebody with us today who is very creative in a field I think a lot of people don't think of as being very creative when we're talking about financial services and that sort of thing. But it takes problem solving, it takes creativity. And so let me tell you a little bit about Ahuva Gruen. She is a seasoned fractional CFO, and I had to find out what that term even meant. We talk about that a little bit in the interview. A seasoned fractional CFO dedicated to transforming businesses and unlocking their full financial potential. With over 20 years of experience, she specializes in providing clarity and insight to entrepreneurs struggling with finances. As a former CFO of a large organization, she has a proven track record of significantly increasing revenue, securing financing, and expanding services. And she got my attention because as an independent author, we just want to write. Really don't want to have to deal with the marketing, which is not what she does, or the numbers, the money side of it. And so we're really the kind of people that she would be working with. And so let me just go ahead and get Ahuva up here. I will turn it over to my recorded self to interview Ahuva Gruen. Here she is. So as I introduced to you just moments ago, we do have with us Ahuva Gruen, and we're getting to know her today. Our mutual friend Noemi brought us together. So I'm figuring out exactly what goes on with Ahuva now, but we're also interested in how she got to where she is, because I know Ahuva, you started out in a corporate setting, but you've gone out on your own. I have one of my good friends is an accountant, but I'm looking at that from the outside. So before we dig into your backstory for our listeners, let's get some terms straight. There is a difference between a CPA and an accountant, for example. So just briefly tell us
I'll explain, everyone.
Yeah.
In the accounting world, there's a few different things. There's bookkeeping, which is data entry. And then there's accounting that we went to school and we have a accounting degree, and there's an extra certification called CPA, Certified Public Accountant. Now, in the CPA accounting world, there's two different areas. There's one area of where people think, CPA, where they're referring to the compliance accountants that do tax returns and all those wonderful stuff to send into the IRS and the state Department of Taxation. But there's another whole world, which is the CFO world, controller world, which is more focused on helping the company grow and succeed, control the money, and do well and strategically to really make companies going up, not just spinning the wheels, but making more money. So in the CFO world, some businesses have in-house CFO, in-house accountant, in-house controller, which is a full-time accountant, CPA accountant that works for that particular company, and they're paying 100, 200, 300,000 plus benefit, plus, of course, employer taxes. But there are many companies that need the expertise of a CFO, of experienced CFO like myself, who's doing this for over 20 years, but don't need the full-time, don't need to pay the full-time salary, benefits. So that's where fractional CFO, which I come in as a consultant, as an independent contractor, and I take a few businesses and help them as a consultant, as a part-time basis, to really help them grow and succeed.
Okay. So that gives us a good picture there. And I think you said it, but just to make sure it's out there, CFO stands for Chief Financial Officer. Have I got that right?
Yes, Chief Financial Officer. Some places, when they have in-house, they call it controller. Some places it's two separate people controlling the money. And CFO is more like strategic, controlling the money, but also strategically helping them, guiding them, anything that hits the dollar bill. CPA is certified public accountant. CFO is chief financial officer. Most CFOs are also CPAs. CPAs is the certification, and thank God I am a CPA and a CFO.
Very good, very good. Now,
it's not one or the other.
Right, right. There's a lot of overlap. There's just different functions. As a layperson, check my understanding here. I may have it very wrong, but it almost sounds like a CPA is more oriented towards looking to the past in order to get a sense of where we are now. A CFO is more looking to the future. Is that a good distinction?
No. CPA is my degree. It's my certification.
Right, right. But just in terms of
CPA world, you could go to different areas. There's compliance CPAs that deal more with compliance, like tax returns. There's CFOs and controllers. That's one area. And then there's auditors. That's another area.
Okay. So it sounds like to me your passion
CFO is also CPAs. CPA is the certification. What area of accounting you go in, there's different areas.
Right. So it sounds like your passion is in helping a business to grow. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, that is my passion in life, besides family, is helping businesses to grow and succeed.
Okay.
And not just spin their wheels.
Now I'm going to make a comparison. My background is in radio. It's not finance.
Yeah.
But when I used to work in radio, there were two different kinds of engineers I worked with. There were maintenance engineers. They wanted to get a routine and just maintain the equipment. There were, I would call them creative engineers who love to solve problems. Now, a comparison I'm hearing, you came from a corporate environment. Again, as a layperson, my impression is that in a corporate environment, it may be, I don't know, this is overstating it. It may be that it's more like a maintenance kind of thing. What I'm probing for here, Ahuva, is what.
Okay, I'll give you some more background. When I was 5 years old, my mother had a business for many years already, a service business, a beauty salon, and I convinced my kindergarten teacher to go and get her hair done by my mother's place. Not that my mother sent me up, but I felt it would be the best for her because my mother was the best at what she did. When I was 10 years old, I opened my first candy business. I bought in a 3-minute walk away on the avenue. I would buy cases of candies for 7 cents, sell it for a quarter, soda cans, and it grew. I did it in the school bus, in school by recess, in the neighborhood, in camp, wherever I went. I stopped in school when my principal said, "You better stop because mothers were complaining or I'm going to kick you out." So then it moved from, I don't remember when it moved from the school bus, if I did it before or after, but it went to camp, the neighborhood, where we went away for the summer. In high schools, I grew up with, hair and beauty. I was cutting people's hair for money, girls, and doing people's hair. By the time I graduated high school, it was natural for me to go into business. My mother had a business. My siblings all had the business bug to do little side things. That's besides that I babysat like every other teenage girl in my time, but I would. So I went to school to become an accountant, and then I got my CPA a year or two into when I was working, and I started off a bookkeeper, which is data entry, and I rose to accountant, to CFO, to controller. And by the time I left my corporate, I had few bookkeepers working under me, and I really grew. So in the corporate world, it's not just, depending on the business, on the industry, it's not just controlling the money and maintaining, but it's dealing with whatever comes up in the business. If it's human resources, it's staffing. If it's compliance to government, if it's financial, if it's reports, if it's banking, if it's dealing with loans, whatever it is, you're full-time really helping that specific company, controlling the money and growing and dealing with whatever comes up. Then in COVID, I left my corporate position, and colleagues said, go get another position in nursing home and healthcare. But while I was an accountant for all those years, I saw a trend that bothered me to no end. Because when I speak to someone, I am a businesswoman by nature. It's part and parcel of who I am and what I do and how my mind goes. I would see that they're good at what the service they did or what they sold, but they weren't good at running the business. And it bothers me to no end. If you would just do A, B, and C, you would do so much better. So much better. And at that point, I'm a single mother raising a family. And I thought about what I wanted to do next. Do I want to take another corporate job? Do I want to follow my passion and go off on my own and help businesses grow and succeed? Businesses that cannot afford, that don't need a full-time CFO. My sister at her pool said to me, I'll never forget where I was. Ahuva, it's now or never. And I decided that I am going to build in confidence, like a show title. I'm going to follow my passion, follow my dreams, and go off on my own to really do the next right step.
Okay. Let me dig into that just a little bit. That statement, now or never. I mean, that's really emotionally challenging in a way. I could see you at that point, single mom. You've got responsibilities, need for good or for ill in this country. The insurance and stuff tends to get covered through an employer. There was probably part of you saying, to provide security for my family, I need to take this corporate job. It's taking a chance. Lots of things in my life have already changed. Quick side question as we're answering this: did you consult with your family before deciding to go out on your own? To say, we're not going to have benefits here, kids.
Well, I am responsible. I did have some income coming in at that time. It was COVID period. I did have some income, but I knew that income was going to stop.
Mm-hmm.
And if I didn't start now, then when?
Yeah.
And I went and I do say be responsible, know how. I didn't just go living on debt. I stayed on COBRA I had to pay for it, but I stayed on COBRA. I never neglected my family. I am responsible. I'm accountant by nature. Sure. I knew from A to B to Z how my money's coming in, what it costs me to live. I tell businesses, know your numbers. People also have to know their numbers. I knew also that if I didn't do it now, when I still had a little bit income coming in, I'll never be able to do it.
Yeah, that sort of golden handcuffs kind of thing. It would be harder to leave later when things were going well.
Right. And you know what? In COVID also was a time that a lot of people were working from home. A lot of people like me left their jobs for whatever the reason within the COVID world. It was a very good time to make that switch. It was in the year that people were leaving, and I knew I could have gotten very easily another corporate job. I had the experience. I was at my company for 20 years. I'm not one who just impulsive and runs from thing to thing, but I put in thought about it. And I decided then to follow my passion. It was also in COVID, we all work from home. So They got a taste also, of working from home, of being like on your own schedule. That how it has some benefit, it has downsides. You know, no social life of office, but it had benefits too, as it has its pros and cons like everything else in life.
Yes, yes. Well, and I bet that puts you in a great position. Do you advise people now who are thinking about making a similar leap? They're starting a business, and that they can draw from your experience in that to help them make the decision, to help them plan.
Okay, so I will say a few things. Number one, I knew that I had income coming in, that my family wouldn't be starving. You could do something on the side. I have friends who are working, and they have, let's say, something that they could really. I was just speaking yesterday to a friend. She's a teacher, but she has a lot of knowledge that she could do side businesses with. And one day come a full-time business. I said, get it moving now. You can't afford to go for branding, use AI, use free services. You can't just stay in your teaching job forever. Teachers are wonderful, but if you need more money and if you have more to offer, open a side business. If it grows enough and you can leave your full-time business, go for it. Don't just stay stagnant. And yeah, so I'm not telling her to drop her job and go and be impulsive, but I'm saying is that to start it small on the side. Another thing is to get guidance. Don't try to pull it off yourself, because people who don't get guidance, they end up spending at the wrong things. I got guidance, I got a mentor, then I paid a lot of money. I invested. It's not an expense. I invested in a coach. I did not need a financial coach, because that's who I am, part and parcel. But in, let's say, the marketing, in the sales, like who, not how. What you do, what you're good at, and delegate the rest. And that's what I did. I had a coach help me with the marketing, with how to structure the business, how to charge, like what are the main pain points businesses need. It's not just what I saw as experience, but what others, to really help, because no one person is going to be great at everything. I was a salesman at 5 years old, but it doesn't always work in the business world today.
Yeah. In fact, let me turn that around in a way, because we're talking about starting a business in a controlled manner, not just taking a leap, not being irresponsible. Going back to the 5-year-old and the 10-year-old, obviously you had that entrepreneurial sense, that spirit. You had a sense of sales, which in my book means understanding a need that somebody has and helping them get it. It's not about manipulation and that sort of thing. So when you were fresh out of college, without those family responsibilities, what led you to go the corporate route at that time instead of just jumping right into business as a late teenager or a young person? Does the question make sense?
Yes, a good question. Why did I go take an office job and not open then a business?
Yes, with that
I was
entrepreneurial
newly
spirit.
married, and I was going to college for my accounting degree. And I took first a bookkeeping job, and they told me they will train me in. They really wanted someone who had office experience. I was going for my CPA, but I didn't. It was my first office job. I had businesses. I helped my mother in her beauty salon. And then after a week or two, and they weren't training me in, and then the boss comes in and starts explaining something, and I said, Mr. So-and-so. And I already decided that I was going to end off the 2 weeks and I was going to leave. And I said to him, I was honest, respectful, and I said, why are you showing me this? I think I'm going to leave. I don't remember the exact words. And we had a frank conversation then. And I ended up, and he said, no, we smoothed things out, and I stayed for 20 years because I believed in the company. I believed in the cause. I was I went to college. I graduated college. I moved up. I had friends. I was settled. I had friends there. It worked for raising small children. I really put my heart and soul into it. And I was helping family and friends. My husband at the time with his real estate business, helping different family member friends. Even while I was corporate, I had my hands in a positive way to help them in people businesses. But when COVID shook everything up and the whole world, it made me like think about, do I still want to be working in this corporate position, or do I want to go off on my own?
That's the heart of the alignment show here, as people think about their values. It kind of sounds like over the years of corporate work, not to put that down at all, but over the years of corporate work, you were scratching that entrepreneurial itch in some other ways. There's a term we hear sometimes called entrepreneurship, where within a corporate environment, the corporation recognizes the value of an entrepreneur and gives you more freedom maybe than what we might think of as the stereotypical corporate job.
For sure. I had freedom. I wasn't just managing money. I was helping them grow. I opened up sister companies to it. I didn't just stay stagnant. I was moving along up in the company and in the in the hierarchy, and I believed in the course. I believed really in the company and what the services they were providing. So that's what also kept me in. If I don't, I'm very straight, honest. If I don't believe in something, I can't sell it. I can't work there. I can't put my whole heart in it. When I go into businesses, I really, really I go in and I invest myself and I believe in them. If I didn't believe in what they were doing, we would speak it out and really improve it. And I took all my experience from my helping friends and family and my corporate experience and my personal experience into my business to help the businesses grow and succeed.
Okay. So for our listeners, one of the things we want to be sure to draw out here is everything you were doing throughout your life, you found some way to make sure your life was in alignment with your values. As life
100%.
went on, the way that you did that changed. The values didn't change, and you were always respecting those values. That is inspirational right there.
Super important. Yes, 100%.
Okay. Now, for people, we had a little bit of conversation before we started recording. Just to give quick context for our listeners, you grew up in Brooklyn and you live in New Jersey now.
Yeah.
I don't, I'm in East Tennessee. I don't have a real good sense of Brooklyn. I understand about the beauty shop. What other kind of entrepreneurial stuff was in the community in which you lived? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I live in Brooklyn. It wasn't suburban, it was a city. There was plenty of stores and businesses nearby. And even as kids, besides that, I babysat. My brother sold lanyard, binded books. I had candy business and then high school cutting hair. It wasn't like rural America. Brooklyn is very city. There's stores, there's businesses. In New Jersey, where I live now, it's not as, thank God, the driving is not as bad as Brooklyn, but it's getting there.
Yeah.
It's like the stores and businesses, and there's a lot of entrepreneurs, and I service businesses all over.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I have a client in Houston, Texas. That's like
And I
totally
want to
different
be
area.
want to be sure people can get in touch with you. We have a lot of people who are on audio only. We've had on the video, for folks who are with us on video, your website is agfinancialcpa.com. Want to be
Yeah, and I
sure to
have a
say that?
shortcut also. A
Oh, okay.
shortcut is ahuvacfo.com. My website is AG Financial CPA.com, and my shortcut is ahuvacfo.com.
And we'll have that when we broadcast this, which we're not quite sure when this will go out. But when we broadcast it, we'll have a QR code to make it easy for people who are with us in video. And audio folks, remember that we always have our show notes at confidencecultivators.com. So we'll have links in the show notes to make it easy to connect here. So thanks to the internet, and so many of us got on Zoom during COVID, then, Ahuva can work with people, I wanted to say all over the world. Now, of course, the financial structure is very different in other places. So your expertise is in US. I've got two questions that are trying to get out at the same time right now.
So let's hear them, and we'll take them one at a time.
So one question that occurs to me, of course, our country is in a lot of flux right now. There's a lot of uncertainty, and we might even say fear within a business environment, just because people don't know what is going to be happening. Do you have advice for people in terms of planning and looking forward in terms of what things are like right now? Now, as we're recording this, it is late February 2025.
Great points. So that gets into what I do for businesses and what I really encourage businesses. First of all, to know your numbers, to be aware of your financials, how much money you're bringing in, how much money is going out, where you're leaking out money, where you're leaving money on the table, which services, which products are you making money. First of all is to have clean books and to know your numbers. And the second thing is to have a forecast, to have a budget. If you know you have 2 slow months or what slow season, it's depending on the industry. If it's winter, if it's December when things are closed for the holiday, whatever it is, to plan accordingly, to save money on the months that you're flourishing, the busy months, for slow months. When you're investing in a new product, in a new services, if you want to invest in a website, in research development, in new equipment, are you eating up all your cash? What is the return on investment? ROI. What is the return on investment to do? Really, in this market and in any market, you have to be financially responsible. Accountability. Accounting can stand for accountability, to make sure that the owner, the staff, the employees are doing the right thing. And that hits into the 4 P's that besides for budgets and reports that we look at, when I go into business, I help them with the 4 P's. People, which is employees. Are they good? Are they accountable? Are they doing good work, efficient work? Customers, are they happy with our product, with our services? Profit margins, which I'm very big believing to have healthy profit margins. To know your direct costs, to know your indirect costs, to have good profit margin. Processes is so important to have processes with everything, with how every part of running your business. It doesn't have to be elaborate and complicated, simple, but it has to be followed through. People, processes, profits, and products. Do you have a market for what you service or what your product? Is it a good product? Does it need to be tweaked? And really, by looking at the whole picture, a holistic picture, really, to help the businesses grow and succeed in no matter what environment.
Okay. So with this time of uncertainty, this is a really good time to take the pulse of the business, so to speak.
And act upon it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't just, I say talk is good, but talk is cheap. You have to do actions.
Yes.
I
yes.
hold everyone accountable, everyone to do action. A client said to me that idea came up and I said, let's go for it. He said it came up already 2 years ago. I said, so what's going on? Why didn't anyone follow through? Well, I don't know, this and that. Well, I'm here now. We're following through.
Mm.
If there's a new idea of revenue stream, don't just talk about it, follow through. You want to start doing government contracts of another client? Do it responsible. You have to dot your I's and cross your T's, but follow through. Don't let fear stop, but don't act impulsively. To follow through, to do the next right step, to really get things moving.
Excellent advice. In fact, my other question, you might say, is more of a mindset kind of thing, which you're kind of talking about mindset right now. For somebody who didn't grow up in an entrepreneurial environment, came through, maybe their parents worked in corporate America. Again, not to put that down, but they didn't have the entrepreneurial setting growing up. And yet they have that itch to serve, that itch to control their own time, their own lives. What advice would you give somebody in that situation in order to prepare to reasonably start a business as opposed to just jumping in with both feet?
Great point. I would suggest, number one, they should start reading business books or listening on Audible, speak to people, get guidance, start on the side, start small, do it. There's so many, wherever you are, there's different organizations, there's different programs. The world is huge. There's like AI. I know you had a podcast about AI recently that I listened to. There's so much out there to really start like wetting your feet. You don't have to jump in and drop your job and spend millions. Start small. Get money through the door. Don't spend a ton of money on the website, on your branding, and just start. Get money in the door. Do things. First, I did my own website. Now I had it redone. There's a time and place for everything. But just start. Just educate. I was just encouraging a friend of mine the other day. We were driving somewhere together. I said, go get the guidance. Don't just let it sit. She had the itch, but she didn't have the courage. Get the right friends, the right mentorship, the right people in your life to really give you the confidence, to encouragement to go. When I didn't want to take my CPA and I wanted to drop out, I was a mother. I was working full-time, taking care of a family, and I wanted to drop out. But my father said, you start, you finish, you could do it. You start, you finish, you can do it. And I thought about it that I don't know what the future will be. I don't know if I'll have to support my family alone one day. And that really, really gave me the push. There was plenty of people that said to me, no one's going to hire you. You're a woman. You're this, you're that. There's no market. Start very low. All these like negative messages. But I listened to the people and my own inner self-confidence of I could do it. I have the skills. I have the knowledge. I do it responsible. I got mentors. I spoke to people. I listened because that's what worked for me on Audible, but I read books. I listened to books. Follow your passion. Do it responsible, but follow. Don't let negative messages get you down. See what resonates with you. Like listen to your inner voice.
We hear a lot of times, follow your passion. I love the refinement that you're giving it. Follow your passion responsibly. I mean, that's just great advice. I want to ask. Sort of related question without digging into a lot of the detail here. I know that you went through the ending of a marriage while this was happening. And I mean, that's tough no matter what. What advice do you have for people who are trying to start a business or run a business when life outside the business can throw so many curves at you? How did you manage through that
I
difficult
have I have to be honest that I started my own business after my divorce finalized.
Mm-hmm,
My
mm-hmm.
divorce finalized, then COVID hit, and
Wow.
different messages came and said to me, it is time, but it could be done. And if people, I believe with my whole heart and soul, and I recommend to friends and family and to acquaintances, every person should not just be reliant on someone else to support them. If you have a degree, don't let it lapse. I encourage friends that they gave up their career when they have kids. Keep up your license. Keep up your certification. You don't know if it could be end of a marriage or someone's not well. I know someone, their husband made all the money, but then he had a stroke. He cannot control the money. He can't work. We don't know what life will bring. That's only the one above knows. My higher power knows what life will bring. But we have to know, you don't know what tomorrow brings. Keep up. If you have an idea of a business, and do it on the side. Look into it. Look at what's the market. There's a book that says Great at Work. I don't remember who the author is, and it says do less and obsess. And look at what's there's a need. I saw there was a huge need for fractional CFO. I saw that while I was in corporate, or if you're not working, if you're a woman and not working, or a man not working, what is there a need? What could you offer the world? What is your strong points? My strong point was always in the business world. I was always a financial. I was always a problem solver. I was always very logical. When there's a problem, how could I do to solve it? When I'm in a business, if there's an issue, what we could do, not just cry over the past, what we could do to fix it. But even while I was in the marriage or ending, I didn't just stop working. I kept up my degree. My accountants have to have, CPAs have to have 40 continuing education credits a year. Whatever it is, every industry has different. My mother has a beauty salon. I grew up that no matter what was going on, my mother made sure to go to, I grew up in Brooklyn. There was a big international beauty show in Manhattan that she would go to every year. The year I got married, it was the next morning. My mother got up, the wedding ended late. She got up at 8 in the morning and she went. Every year I said, I'm going to go to that beauty show, my whole childhood. It never happened yet. But and now I'm in a totally different industry, so it's not relevant. But no matter what, she kept up with that. She was in beauty. She kept up with the trend. She kept up with the style. Don't stay stagnant. That's not good either. Don't be impulsive. I don't mean to be contradictory, but don't stay stagnant either.
There's that sweet spot in the middle there. Is your mom still running the beauty shop?
Yeah, she's still running the beauty show.
Okay. I'm
I'm
curious.
sorry, not the beauty show. She's still in the beauty industry.
Beauty industry. Okay.
Over 50 years later. Thank God she should live and be well.
Amen to that. I'm curious. I know she's proud of you. I'm wondering, as she looks at how your career has developed and she thinks about you started because of her business, what kind of conversations do you have with her around business at this point? That
At
makes
this
sense.
point,
Yeah.
at this point, I give her business advice about how to improve the business, how to do things more online, if to do different like sales or show. She helps me with my hero, and she's always was a great mother and believes that my father was like gave us independent, but also like believed that we want to do something. He believed. My brother once wanted to walk 40 minutes to my aunt's house, and my mother was scared, and my father said, no, you could go. And he walked behind him, a half a block behind him, the whole 40 minutes. When he saw he went in, maybe it was 40 minutes, an hour, I don't remember. When he saw that he went inside safe and sound, he turned around and he walked back home. My brother didn't know. I didn't know the story. And then recently he was telling us the story. So he gave us independence. We never would have gone against his independence. He believed in us, but he was responsible. He did walk behind without my brother ever knowing.
That is a great story. And a great principle. I mean, for giving people independence and yet being supportive. There's that sweet spot in the middle. Well, Ahuva, as we're coming to the end of our time, I always like to say to people, there's probably something that you wish that I had asked that I didn't. What do you wish I had asked about you, about your business, whatever it might be? And what would your answer to that be?
So I would love to really speak a few minutes about what I do for businesses. Yes. I took my experience, I took my knowledge, I took who I am, and I really help businesses. Like a client of mine said to someone, I'm better than any other CFO because I get into the gut of the business. What's going right? What's going wrong? Is it profit margin? We're going to set up a tool. We're going to follow it. Is it accountability? Everything hits the bottom line. Whatever is going on hits the bottom line. If your employees don't do work efficiently, if they don't have good communication, good guidance of what they're doing, if the people are complaining of the product or the service, it's not good. They're not going to come back. If it's a professional service industry, if you don't track your hours, for example, lawyers, you're not going to make money. It's so important. People think of it as an expense to get a financial guidance. It's life-changing. It's life-changing because you can't be everywhere. And everyone has like different strong points. You can't be everywhere. I won't try to do my website again because that's not my strong point. I don't do my own marketing because that's not my strong point. Do what you're best at. If you're best at sales, you're best at running operation, and delegate the rest. Invest in a fractional CFO. It's not an expense, it's an investment. A client of mine said to me that before I came, every Thursday was payroll day. His stomach would turn over. How he's going to make? Thank God now he doesn't. Another client, I took a business that was using deposit to fund operation business owners. That's a bad recipe, and I turned it around. If you're on 10% net profit margin businesses, that's not healthy. That's like survival. Invest in your financial. I went to a networking event, a big construction networking event, and I went from booth to booth. There was all different types of service, like contractors and plumbers and electrician and roofers and windows and surveyors. And I went booth to booth and I asked them a question. Do you feel like you're playing catch up? Not catch up, catch up with cash? And the ones most of them said yeah. And the ones that said no, I asked them, do you have someone in the financial seat of your business? And Don, what do you think they said?
I'm betting they said yes.
100%. They 100%. Mostly said yes. And you just reminded me, different brains work different. I have a good true story. A relative of mine works as a controller in a real estate company, and she gave in a report to a colleague of hers, and the colleague said the washer dryer should not be capitalized. Don, what do you think that coworker meant?
Well, I get we're talking about the report there, right? I mean, just how it's the form of it. Yeah, that's the kind of thing I would pick up on because my background is in writing.
So, what do you think she meant?
Are we talking about, in essence, copy editing here?
Okay, so you're right. She said to her, so my relative said, I know that, but you don't usually point that out. Like, why are you saying it? So the person said it should be lowercase, not capital case. My relative, in her brain, in her head, she meant it should be expense, not capitalized.
Okay, yeah. So yeah.
This is one of my favorite stories that show that people, according to what they do, according how if they're more the creative or more the financial numbers, is how every person that I tell this story and I ask that question, what do you think she would for? If they're in business world, in the financial world, of course it should be expense. It shouldn't be capitalized. Capitalized means, so those of us people that don't know, means that you could take it as expense over 5 years. You can't just take it as an expense to know what's going on in your business right away, and on your taxes. An expense you take as an expense that's more like usually short-term or cheaper things right away.
Okay.
So, and anyone who's more in the creative, who's into language things, of course, it should be lowercase, not capital case. So if you're not a financial, if you don't have time, or if it's not your strong point, delegate it. Be involved. Don't just disappear for a year, but delegate, but be involved. Communication.
Yeah, absolutely. A quick related story there. The famous author Richard Bach. Most people would know him from having written Jonathan Livingston Seagull. He hired somebody to do what you're talking about for a business, but he just turned everything over to that person, and the person said, "You don't want to just turn it over to me. No. I'm not a financial person. You just take care of it." And longer story shorter, he wound up basically stealing all of Bach's stuff, and he wound up losing the copyright to all of his books and stuff. Now, he got them back eventually, but this speaks to what you're saying here. It's not about, avoiding crime, although certainly that's part of it, but you need to be involved, but you also need to delegate it to experts so that you are in control of the business, but you don't have to do every aspect of the business.
Right. I just got a new client who did that. Hired a manager, hired people, and was totally not involved, and they didn't do anything. They let things slide. They told the bookkeeper, even when things didn't make sense and we can solve, just move on. I said, what's reconciliation when I came in if it's not clean book? Like, what were they doing? So yes, you have to be involved. Another aspect is if I see things in the financial, and let's say employees are not being efficient, taking too long. If I work with the CEO, with the owner, and hear and discuss it with the operation, it's so important to work together. Number one, if he's giving out the pricing on proposal, depending on the business, so he has to know also where his business is going, the pulse of the business. He also has to know, because if he's in operation, he'll have more ideas, how long things should take, and also give ideas when you work together about how to improve things. So I hit on all areas of 4 P's of business besides the financial reports, because financial reports is number one, it's starting point. But in it for the impact, what's driving those reports. But when you work together, you could be so much more effective because they come in from the operation end, from the sales end, they could come up with ideas that I don't about how to improve it. If they're doing too much or too little work on a job, you lose money. So let's say one client, he came up with the idea of having like a questionnaire that you fill out when a job comes in from a client, what they want, what they're using it for, and to give it over to employees to do the correct amount. If you do not enough and you have to go back, it costs money. If you do too much, you overkill, it also costs. Which clients are not good clients? Businesses, most of them, a lot of them, 80% of the profit comes from 20% of the clients.
Right, the Pareto principle. Yeah.
Oh, that client is hard to deal with. His jobs take longer. Price is different. Raise the price. Don't take it. To work together, it's so important to, in order to succeed.
Very good. Very good. Well, your expertise is going to be useful to some of our listeners, and your story is inspirational to all of us. So thank you for sharing not only what you do, but what drives you to do it, what's important to you. Really appreciate that. I want to mention.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Absolutely. I want to mention one more time, AG Financial CPA.com, and then remind me what the short version is.
Ahuva CFO.com. AHUVA, my first name, CFO.com.
Okay, and we'll have both of those in the show notes, folks, but I want to make sure that you have that. Well, Ahuva, we will turn it over to my real self here for the outro, but once again, thank you for being with us here on the Alignment Show.
Thank you for having me on the show. It's been great.
Well, it was great having Ahuva on the show. I'm always fascinated by people who understand the financial aspects of business. It's not that I don't understand them. They just don't naturally parse in my brain. And indeed, you can partner with people and truly leverage things. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. The thing that impresses me so much about Ahuva is not just that she understands the financials, but she also has that entrepreneurial mindset. She understands business from the standpoint of the person who's passionate about what they do. And I mean, let's face it, plumbers who are passionate about their business, they generally don't want to be spending lots of their time, at least, on the books. They want to be out there solving plumbing problems. Writers want to write. Whatever it is that you do, that's generally what you want to spend your time doing. And so partnering with somebody like Ahuva is just makes a lot of practical sense. So glad that she came on here with us. Again, we've got in the show notes, we'll have the links, but we've also been having them up on the screen as we're going along. We've said them out loud a few times for folks who might be on with us audio only. In any case, it has been good having Ahuva on with us. I hope you will check out AhuvaCFO.com. Also, remember that if you want to support the show, you can always, I encourage you to go to our sponsors. Again, donking.com, that's DONNKING.com/saleswise, or donking.com/books. You can always go to buymeacoffee.com/donking. That's one way of supporting the show. But if you come over to where we have our show notes, confidencecultivators.com, I would encourage you to subscribe there. You can have a free subscription. You'll be able to keep up with all of our guests, access the show notes, know about who is coming up. And if you would like to support the show, you can upgrade to not only support the show, but get some additional benefits. Share this with a friend. You know somebody who is wrestling with how to bring their life into alignment with their values. That sounds really philosophical, but it's truly very practical. Life is too short to spend it doing something you don't want to do. So share this with a friend. And in addition, it's worthwhile mentioning I work with a limited number of people to help them bring their books into publication. So I hope that the time that you have spent here today is useful to you. I know it has been to me. And we will look forward to our next show, I believe, coming up. And let me take a quick look here. Coming up, we're actually going to try to get another show up on Monday, I believe. Suzanne Jabbour, if I'm saying her name right. It's been a couple of months since we recorded the episode. She is a mental health professional, and May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so this will be a good time to schedule that. It'll come pretty quickly. You know, we've been trying to make sure we do a show at least every couple of weeks. Been doing pretty good about doing it weekly. This one's coming up quickly, but we want to get it in there because of Mental Health Appreciation or Mental Health Awareness Month. In any case, hope you can and will join us next time. We want to support you in living your values so you can value your life. And we'll see you next time on The Alignment Show.
That's it for this week's episode of The Alignment Show. What has it inspired you to do in your own life? Whatever it is, take action now and take the first step. It will help you to talk with a friend about what you're thinking. Share confidencecultivators.com to spread the goodness. And remember to live your values and value your life. We will see you next week on The Alignment Show.